So my good people, one day I made the decision to permanently quit crime. Yeah, I decided to quit the criminal life that I was in. Not because I, wanted to live a clean life, or not because maybe I wanted to get saved. I decided to quit crime because of the betrayal that one of our gang members had, meted on us. It was a high voltage betrayal, and after that we felt that no, it was not worthy. My good people, this story dates back to the good year of 2016. Unfortunately for me, I had lost my parents on a very grisly road accident, and life after that had become very unbearable for myself and of course my two sisters. I remember very well, we were young at the time that we were losing our parents, and definitely during the burials, a lot of our relatives gave promises to, take care of us and whatnot. But life after the demise of my parents was very difficult for us, because one of our rich aunties who took us in converted us into domestic workers. So instead of tending for us and making sure we had seamlessly continued with our education, she turned us into her domestic workers. We would do her chores, we will, work on her farms and all that. So myself and my two sisters, we became very miserable. Affording getting 2 meals per day became a luxury for us, because we were only being fed once a day after a whole day of terribly hard work. And sooner we began sinking deep into the oceans of depression. My very young sisters began exhibiting tendencies of stress, and as the man who had been left back by my parents, I felt so bad. And therefore I said enough was enough. I decided to leave our foster home so that I could go to the streets and get a life and work hard, and one day come back and pick my sisters, so that we could live that particular decent life that my parents had envisioned for us, my good people. And off I went. I joined the streets, and it's not what I had pictured. The streets were tough. The Nairobi streets are not something you do not want to fancy spending even one single night under a bridge. It was very terrible. Getting food became a tall order, and we kept begging for food in the streets. Strangers were very harsh on us. They kept on asking us to go back home, to go back to our parents, to go back to school, without really getting to know why we got to the streets in the first place. So my good people, it was very, very difficult at that particular point. But then life had to move on. So when I joined the streets of Nairobi, then I met two friends. One of them was Arnold, and another gentleman was going by the name Mike. So we stuck together, and we promised to do everything that would, deliver us from that situation that we were in at that particular point in time. After 3 months of, being street kids, sleeping under the bridge, having mouse and cat games with police and all that, sometimes going with days before food, starting to get illnesses, poor hygiene, poor health, we decided again this was not what we were cut to be in this life. So we made the worst decision ever, but to us that was the best decision we ever made. We decided to get into crime. We decided that there were people in this Nairobi who were so rich, who were so rude, and we were going to make them share some little of their wealth with us forcefully. So Arnold was 2 years older than I and Mike. So he was an orphan as well. He had run away from home because of, they came from rural Bungoma. So there were a lot of things to do with family traditions and cults and all that, and witchery that he did not want to be part of. He was being forced to do certain things that were critically against his conscience. So When his parents died, his a sister to his grandmom tried introducing him to witchery and sorcery and all those kind of shebang, but he had run away in an attempt to, not engage himself in all those things. So he was a little bit mature on the streets. He had navigated the Nairobi street life, and he knew a thing or two on how to, forcefully get money from Nairobi expatriates, the rich, okay? So when we decided to join organized crime, we weren't really ready or geared towards harming people or, killing anyone. We just wanted to scare people away and, make them surrender their valuables to us, and so that we could sell those valuables and get some little money for our food or for our, Medicare and all that. It was nothing that was so crafted well. So I remember very well, my good people, at that particular point in time, we got a plug who gave us very sharp knives and daggers. So the plan was we would waylay people at around midnight. Our station where we were stated at that particular point was Tomboya, just next to the old Tuskys. So anyone who was coming from, there's usually a bank there, KCB Bank, just next to a Commonwealth House. So anyone who was coming from that bank at night, we would assume that they are from the ATM and they had some little knots. So we would, waylay them, scare them a bit with those knives, make them surrender monies and all that. I don't want you to, at this particular moment, begin to imagine that it was easy. It was not, my good people, because some of the people we encountered would not be easily scared. Either they were bouncers from clubs, or they were licensed gun holders who were always trigger happy, ready to shoot anything that looked like a criminal on the streets. So sometimes we messed with the wrong people, and we had to either surrender or run away for our dear life. So it was not as simple as we had envisioned it, but life had to move on. Sometimes we won, got some little money from the little women who were scared. Sometimes we would get phones, sell them as little as 500 shillings, at least to get some food that would cross us through to the next day. So I remember very well, after again 1 month of being petty thieves within Nairobi town, it was tiring. It was really tiring. We did not really have the morale or the motivation to keep on going. So Arnold, who again was 2 years older than us, told us that we need to be really strategic in this particular criminal life that we are in. We need to start targeting wealthy people, and we needed to learn how to break into cars. And according to Arnold, who was training us on this, there were lower risks of breaking into cars or breaking into homes, as opposed to attacking people on the streets and taking their valuables forcefully, because then anything would happen to you. So we got into a very intense and ambitious training on how to break into parked cars, how to alter padlocks and all that, because he told us that sometimes people leave money and valuables like phones or jewelry in their cars. So if we were able to master how to break into a car under 2 or 3 minutes, we would get a loot. We would buy new clothes, so that if somebody saw us getting into a car, they would think it's ours, and that would not raise so much alarm. My good people, in doing all these things, my idea, or what was in my mind, was delivering my 2 sisters from the foster home that they were in. I knew they were suffering. I knew they had been turned into domestic workers or domestic slaves at a very tender age. And I knew that was not the life that our late parents had envisioned for us. So everything I did on the streets of Nairobi, whether it's crime, whether it's being a petty thief, whether it's sleeping under a bridge, and now whether it's getting to organized high-level crime, all I wanted to make enough money that would start a business for me, permanently quit crime, go and pick my sisters so that the three of us would start again. That was my plan. If only I knew that God had other plans for me. So my good people, in under 7 days, we were taught how to, break into those particular cars. We were taught how to manipulate padlocks and all that. So one day we learned that our first market for our new venture was going to be Pangani, because according to the person who was mentoring us in organized crime, Pangani was a very lucrative area for rich Indians who did businesses within that locality. So every Friday, at the end of every week, they would withdraw their money, stash them in their cars, then go to a favorite club just at the entrance of Pangani Road, where they would spend their money. So we were trained that every Friday at around 10 p.m., the parking lot of that club would be full of high-end cars with monies that are left carelessly by these rich Indians. And if we could successfully break into one, we would make a killing and life would change. I remember at that particular point in time, my good people, we used to live at a place in Kariobangi, just the Kariobangi River. There's a tin shack iron house that we had built ourselves, the three of us, and we used to live there. So I remember that particular Friday evening, we went to Pangani, where these Indians used to drink and spend their money. So the idea was Arnold would select a high-end car, manipulate the locking system, intrude into it, and pick as much valuable as he could. For myself and Mike, we were basically meant to, check out who's coming towards where that car is. Just basically check out if, the guards around there would, be alarmed by our presence, because we looked good. We had bought some few clothes, and nobody would suspect we were criminals. So my good people, I remember very well, we struck. With the help of Arnold, he was able to, identify a car. And we struck. Boom. So as we were checking, making sure nobody was coming towards that car, Arnold was busy, intruding. So after what seemed to be like 5 to 10 minutes, we saw him emerging with a bag. And we were like, what? Is either that bag was full of clothes or it was full of money. Either way, we didn't care. He signaled us to get out of that place as soon as we could and head home straight away. He seemed excited. So we thought that he had confirmed that in that bag there was money. He had successfully, intruded into that particular high-end car, and he had picked the bag from there. No suspicion, no nothing. The place was very busy. Nobody was giving a damn on what the next person was doing. So we left. After 30 minutes, we were at our Kariobangi house. It was now a few minutes to midnight. My good people, when we opened that bag, it was stashed with $1,000 notes, clean in bundles. You can imagine. This was clearly millions if converted into Kenyan currency. This was real money. This was top dollar. This is the money you get and your life changes. The lives of the people you love change completely. I don't know if that is I was so excited. I almost told God bless you. Shout out to Eli Oyaba for that wonderful line. So an argument began amongst the three of us, whether to divide this money equally among the three of us and everyone goes his own way, or we take this money and this bag the way it is, throw it under our bed and proceed with our criminal activities. Because, my good people, no amount of money is ever enough. So according to Arnold, we were supposed to not to lose focus because of this bag of money. We were to keep it under our bed and hit the road running to our next victim. According to Mike and I, this was too much money, millions. We just divide it into 3 halves equally, then kila mtu aende zake. Everybody goes to their own horizon. We argued for around 30 minutes. I remember just a few minutes past midnight, when we were at the top of our argument on what to do with this money, the lights went off all of a sudden and our door was kicked open heavily. You know, it was just a tin shack. So even if you would kick it lightly, you would shake the entire house. The lights went off completely. We had gunshots right in front of our house, and the door was blown away. And I saw somebody that looked like a policeman. You know, they were in very heavy combat. And I only remember being slapped so hard, and I lost conscience. My good people, when I woke up, I was in a dark room, which I later learned was a police cell, and I was in handcuffs. Mike, remember Mike, our other friend, was next to me, was bleeding. I think he had been hit by a blunt object, but Arnold was nowhere to be seen. So we were like, just a few minutes after we had, regained our conscience, and we were like, okay, we are in a police station, because clearly this is a police cell and whatnot. One of the officers came in and he was like, yo, you guys are criminals. Yesterday we trailed you. You had robbed one of the Indian MPs in Kenya and took away with around 10 million shillings, and we are taking you guys to court. And that was very shameful of you. The money was recovered and taken back to the Indian guy. That's what the police told us. And I wonder who had blown our cover. Had they seen us getting out of that particular Pangani joint? What exactly had happened? I don't remember, because I only remember people bulging and kicking our door, and I don't remember the arresting bit. I don't remember how we left our Kariobangi house all the way to police station. I do not remember. But the $1 million question is, where was Arnold? Fast forward, we were taken to court the following day. The laws of Kenya states clearly that upon arrest, 6 hours you are presented before a judge to determine the nature that your prosecution will take. So we were taken to court. We knew better not to plead innocent, because we were in a very bad shape. We had injuries inflicted to us by the arresting police. Our health was in a dire catch-22 situation. I had a very bad asthma. I had no inhaler. I had no antihistamine tablets. I knew better that even if we would plead innocent and left to go, where were we going to? We had no money to begin visiting hospitals, and we were now on high alert as dangerous and armed criminals. We pleaded guilty of robbery, and I remember the good judge gave us a cool 10 years at Kamiti Maximum Prison. We knew better not to ask where our third gang member Arnold was, because we had made a solemn promise, a solemn covenant between the 3 of us that at no particular point in time would we ever reveal or snitch on the next person. We would not say that we were 3. We could not, because that was a covenant between brothers. I remember very well, we were taken to prison with my good friend Mike, and we began a life in prison. It was very tough, my good people. Those walls, those committee walls, can be very scary. As much as we got food once a day and a little bit of Medicare there and a little bit of new friends, other inmates, life generally was not okay. If you really want to injure somebody's psychosocially, I mean, deny them freedom. And that is what we were denied. We were confined there for 10 years. Same compound, same buildings, same people for 10 years. But at least we found a new home, right? The days went by gracefully, the months went by gracefully, and soon we were almost finishing our first year at committee. We had learned how to survive, but my sisters never escaped my mind. I always thought about them, my good people. I remember very well one day something happened. Every month they bring in inmates because judges across the country give verdicts every day and people are jailed, others are left free. So on this particular 1 month towards the end of our first year, an inmate was brought. We didn't care why he had been brought to committee. For one reason or the other, people commit crimes. But what's interesting and shocking at the same time is that this gentleman had insisted on seeing me and Mike for a very private talk. So after looking for us for long, we finally gave him audience. He was going by the name Titus, I remember. My good people, what Titus told us was very shocking. Titus told us that he's a former police officer who worked at Nairobi Central Police Station. Titus also told us that at the night of our arrest, after stealing 10 million from that car, it is Arnold, our gang leader, who had orchestrated that arrest. Arnold had tipped off this Titus now, who is in police cells. Arnold had told Titus that, hey, we have stolen some money, and my two gang leaders, they are very young and not dependable. They want to share this money equally and disappear. I know after they disappear, this money will be too much for them. They will get confused and, at some point betray us. So what I want you to do, I want you to go and orchestrate an arrest. Arrest all of us. But when we are being taken to the police station, make sure you take this bag of money, disappear with it, and make sure that I do not get to the police station. Just Socrates and Mike are the ones to go in. The promise that Arnold gave Titus was that they would share that 10 million into half so that they all go 50-50. So 5 million, 5 million. But for us it would be 3.5 million, 3.5 million, 3.2 million. So according to Arnold, that 3.2 million that he was going to get was going to be too little for him. And that's why he had betrayed us. So that's why this police officer was looking for us to tell us what truly happened on that night and perhaps ask for forgiveness. Because karma is a bitch. And by coming to us, telling us the truth, asking for, apologizing, he was simply declaring his karma paid in full so that he would live his life with grace right at the prison. My good people, we were shocked at what Arnold had done to us. And if I told you that I forgave Arnold, I would be lying. I hated that man like... we felt so bad. But there's nothing we could do. We had to continue serving our 9 years gracefully. Former policeman, now convict Titus, told us that he didn't want us to ask him what had transpired between him and Arnold. He preferred not to tell us, but we could only imagine that him too, he had been cleaned up, washed thoroughly. And according to him, Titus had picked the 10 million, disappeared into people. He had people say he went to Uganda, changed his name, changed his citizen, and all. So we forgave Titus and we became friends. So we were just 3 inmates within committee, hoping that God will give us providence and we would finish our terms and rejoin the society. Our relatives were allowed to visit us once a month for exactly 10 minutes during the visit. So my sisters would come, we would catch up. I told them what happened. The only thing they would do is sympathize. So after 3 years, one day one of my sisters, Sandra, told me that she was planning to get married that particular year on the 3rd month. That's March 4th. It was on a Saturday. She really cried during that visit because she didn't have anybody who was going to stand in for her at her wedding day. But coincidentally, I remember very well her same wedding date that she has chosen was the same day the president was going to give presidential, what is it called? The pardoning, where the president pardons people, inmates. So it was the same day. We knew very well we would not get in the list of the people that president would pardon, but we were allowed to watch on committees. There was a big TV on a hall where we would watch the proceedings for the inmates. So I remember very well that day in the morning, we were all seated on that particular hall, and we could see our lovely president being handed over the list of people he was going to give presidential pardon, the Order of Mercy. Sadly for me, it was the same morning that my dear sister Sandra was going to get married to her long-term boyfriend so that she too can start a family of her own and try marriage life. It was very, very, very sad, my good people, that I was not going to be part of that beautiful moment in my sister's life. It was very sad. But there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I could do at that particular point in time. So I remember very well, we were seated there and the president began reading, and according to the president, immediately you hear your name, you clear with the prison officers in 30 to 1 hour, so that every other clearance with the judicial systems or with the police and all that you will do once you are outside. So you're given 1 hour to get out. That is if you are pardoned, you're in the list. The president began reading names. Number 170, Socrates, Committee Maximum Prison, jailed 3 years ago for robbery with violence, pardoned for exhibiting good character in prison. Number 171, Mike Kevins, jailed 3 years ago, a robbery with violence, pardoned on the grounds of health, and exhibiting good character while at committee maximum prison. My good people, we did not wait to hear the rest of the names. We rushed to the prison authorities and they went through their records, and indeed it was true that I and my friend Mike were in the list of the beneficiaries of the president's pardoning decree, the people who had received the presidential order of mercy. They cleared us and the officers wished as well. The first business was basically to rush to my sister's wedding, give her a very surprise appearance, and be there for her at the moment when she needed family the most. I don't think, my good people, there would be anything more exciting than that. And indeed, there's a God somewhere who listens. So together with Mike, we took a bus and we moved. I remember we got to the church at around 2:30, and being African timers, at the back of my mind I thought that the wedding maybe had finished. But we got to the point where they were almost taking their vows, and we got there, the church was packed. My sister was there looking all dolled up, looking all beautiful. The gentleman was there, suit up, looking, in charge of the situation. And after 5 good years, that was the most spectacular scene I had seen, and to be very honest, my heart was full. And the church was really packed, and guys were, very much concentrating and focusing on what was going on at the main dais. So the only place we would get seats was at the far back. So together with my friend Mike, we got ourselves at the far end, at the far corner of the church, and began, following the proceedings and the vows and all that. So at the time when they were almost about to, put on the rings on their fingers and to finish on the vows, I noted that the gentleman was a little bit, the guy now, Bwana Harusi, the groom was, very familiar. And I told Mike, hey, let me move a little bit closer to the dais, at least my sister would see me and, invite me over to, sit at the front. But I was keen on getting to have a clearer view of who the Bwana Harusi was, because I did not know. When I moved closer and sat in a position where I was facing him directly, I finally and instantly recognized that man. I recognized that face. The guy who was marrying my sister, Sandra, was no one other than Arnold, who had betrayed us, gotten us jailed, and left us for the dead.